Alright, I'm back. Just want to make sure I'm running. Yeah, we're running. But you know, it's. If you're a horror thief, like, what would you do? I mean, you had pretty much a choice of cooperating with the Nazis or becoming part of Nazi Germany. And number two, he had, like, whack jobs, the Arrow Cross Party, just basically in his country, that was pretty much like the fascist movement in Hungary, and he had to deal with them all the time. So it was like this weird. It was just he was between a rock and a hard place. I could send more people. I could send a fourth one if I wanted to, but. For the most part, you would think like Franco would be really appreciative of all this effort on my part, you know. But I'm basically at least, I mean, but overall, you know, Horthy was between a rock and a hard place. Just one of those tragic characters in history. And the annoying thing, too, is that the Arrow Cross Party, they're the ones that, like, Horthy, for the most part, tried his best to avoid the Jews being deported in his country. And it wasn't really until fairly late in the war that, like, when his country was occupied by the Germans, that's when, unfortunately, like the Holocaust, as you would define the Holocaust, actually started in Hungary. In some ways, it's Italy. It's. You know, in the beginning, at least, Mussolini tried to protect it. Tried to. Eventually, just gave in to Hitler. Just one of those. It's. Once again, if it wasn't for Mussolini, I wouldn't be in America. You know, I'd probably be an Italian citizen. And. Which would be okay for me. I mean, I wouldn't mind being Italian. You know, I learned no Italian probably at this point, which will be kind of cool, you know? We have a bunch of these things. Let these fellows train up. Let these people rest a little bit. It's one of those things in life. What the hell are you doing? And why aren't you attacking? No, you're going up this way. Then you're going around. Oh, yeah, there we go. You know, ultimately, 22 Zentrum now, which is good. 23 Zentrum. Good. Kurt Schumacher. Let's look up this guy. Kurt Schumacher. Well, we can't because we have construction. you, because we need you. We need all the resources we could get, frankly. Kurt Schumacher, Kurt Schumacher, Schumacher. No, not that good. Kurt Schumacher. Oh, he was just a former chairman of the SDP. He was pretty much Adenauer's main enemy. Like, it actually seems like a decent guy. I mean, it's... Yeah. Holy crap, he spent 10 years in Heuberg, Flossenburg, and Dachau. And it's... Imagine becoming disabled during the First World War, fighting for your country, and then leading it in Congress, kind of like McCain, and then having Trump throw you in a concentration camp for 10 years. That's pretty much Schumacher's life. Though I think Trump is Hitler, he's not as bad. I'd say more like a Mussolini character, but... His main problem is that he has lackeys in Congress that vouch for him. He originally had Paul Ryan, who was basically like von Papen. Basically a guy that he had the power to deny Trump the candidacy if he wanted to, but he disagreed and allowed him in. Sort of like a deal with the devil. Von Papen was ultimately the one that gave Hitler the chancellorship. And now he has McConnell, who does all his stuff that Trump wants to do. In that case, I guess he's more like Keitel. So, we have our lackeys in our Congress too. I mean, ultimately... Well, and you have a choice of staying in power or standing up for yourself, standing up for what's right, kind of like what Romney's doing. And ultimately, at least in that way, you can say that Romney's doing the right thing. And even though, I did a vote for Obama in 2016, not 2016, 2012, I am fairly confident that if Romney was elected, he would be a halfway decent person, But well, that's who we have in our cabinet right now. It's he was a member of the SPD who then decided to fight. He got disabled in World War I. And he spent his whole life opposing Nazism. And in that case, I consider him a hero. He's at least a little bit better, say, compared to Goebbels or Keitel. Or even Monstein and stuff, because there were some, yeah, we'll just put a bunch of those. Some, even Hindenburg, he was against, as anti-Semitic as the German army was, he did protest. He did protest when, he was able to carve out exceptions for Jewish war veterans. It would have been a lot more to force Germany under martial law to purposely overthrow the Hitler regime, which he had the power to do back in 1933. And he was debating doing that all the way up to the Long Knives Purge. What have we got here? What can we do? So we're going to lose a little, so we could take a little bit of extra democracy support, or we could save up and destroy fascism. And I'm going to just choose to save up a little bit and destroy fascism. And we can do that in a little bit. So now, we're going to keep producing Untersee boots. The funny thing, I don't know how they have this coded. In reality, if if there was like a rebellion against Hitler in real life, kind of like what I'm doing, I'm wondering how the Wehrmacht would side. Earlier supporters of the army, say like von Blomberg, stuff like that, they pretty much just wanted a totalitarian military dictatorship. And at least, especially because Blomberg, when he was based over in East Prussia, and he sort of used the SA as a sort of like auxiliary unit for the Reichswehr at the time, just simply just because it was limited to 100,000 men. So, you sort of saw like the least rise of a Hitler at least as a way to like produce sort of like a military dictatorship like he wanted. But, obviously Blomberg was thrown out. He decided to marry an ex-prostitute, or at least that's what Goering said. But around this time, 1937, ultimately, if there was like a Schumacher guy that wanted like the army to be bigger than Versailles, but otherwise was like a semi-functioning democracy, yeah, we're going to discredit the government. Shoo! Yeah, we're discrediting the government. We sort of just like hired a guy into our cabinet whose job is just to like undermine our government. Things like that, it's kind of hilarious if you think about it. But that's what we're doing. Schumacher's doing his thing. Hopefully, yeah. NSDAP, you're down to 47. We're up to 28. Would actually make sense, possibly, to outlaw communism. But I just don't know. It's what they say. Yeah, we're making these people like us. We're not making these people like us. We're just going to. We got the Scharnhorst. We got the Nisa now. We might as well get some more dockyards. But, it's. I wonder how the army would side in this situation. If you had a guy like Schumacher or like Hitler was like, hey, I'm gonna put some like Democrat, like hardcore, like Republican, like pro-Republican, anti-NSDAP people into my cabinet. What do you guys think about it? And you have like people like Goebbels and stuff go like, oh, my fear. That's a great idea. You want to, like, spend some of your political power, too, on, like, getting them to, like, support democracy? Well, yeah, that would be a great idea. I'll make that happen right away, my friend. You know? But ultimately, if you read it, Halder was, like, the military was, like, planning to overthrow Hitler from the get-go. But especially during the Anschluss and the Munich Conference, they just wanted to overthrow him because they were afraid that he was leading Germany into disaster. Not that he was, like, evil or anything like that, or wars of aggression. Depends who you talk to, but, you know, overall they do know that, like, they were against Hitler at least starting the war then, you know? And for that reason, you know, they probably would actually side with a regime change, I think. I mean, and if anything, some of the higher ups just didn't like him too, because, you know, he was just a mere corporal, which I was. But once again, I was just too damn drunk to really even grow anything a semblance of a normal career. It's difficult to grow an army career if you snort dope and drink every day. And if you don't believe me, I actually know I wouldn't recommend that you try that out. Wouldn't recommend that to anybody. But here we are, slowly taking. See, this is like. It actually makes sense to focus on at least pushing this down a little bit. And then going up, even though obviously this is a smaller pocket. How's Franco doing up here? Yeah, Franco's got these people on the ropes too, which is good. So a lot of these things is good. We're slowly pushing them back. And the Zentrum is slowly growing. 0.05. Every day we're getting a little bit more Zentrum. Which is good, you know? And we're going to get even a little bit more in a little bit. Once we get back up to 25, I'm just going to do this expand civil support thing again. You know, that'll help bolster the Zentrum. I mean, it's. Why are they doing the Zentrum? That was like basically, they're. In order to be like a part of the Zentrum political party during the Weimar period of Germany, you had to be Catholic. So it's like paradox, like owned by the Catholic Church or something, because I mean it's like a more logical thing might be like the DVP. That was sort of like a center left party. The Zentrum, it means center literally in German, but they're kind of like a Catholic party. The main ones were the DVP, the SPD. Socialist People Party Deutschland, and the DNVP, the Deutsche National Volksparty. It was sort of like a center-right party, maybe what you'd call even a little bit more. Like it's, you could actually say it was probably, it was a pretty far-right party, at least compared to our times. Like if you wanted like a centrist political party, it would probably be the DVP. And that's like my I took one course in the Weimar Republic, and I got some stuff out of it, but that's pretty much it. You know, it's the interesting thing is that, like, you know, there was a Reichstag during you know, the Kaiserreich, and Thus, overall, I do believe the Entente lost the peace. Because I think like they could have easily done more to sort of, as weird as it sounds, I kind of do blame them for. Obviously, Hitler played the role in World War II, causing it at least. But the Entente could have easily done. I almost do blame them for like creating like the chain of events that made it happen. And that's about it. And as I said before, I actually do stand by that comment. And a lot of it is ultimately if you defeat someone or grind them down to the ground, you do have to sort of be friends with them. You have to, like, the only way I could describe it is, like, after that chain of events, you sort of have to allow them to save some sort of face, because otherwise, they're gonna be harboring a grudge against you. And if you harbor a grudge, if anyone harbors a grudge on anyone, it usually doesn't end well, just because that person is just going to keep scheming for revenge. And if they say, end up becoming a dictatorship in Central Germany circa 1933, it's, even if you beat the person fair and square, there's a good chance that Mako-fascists take over as much land as they think they could get away with. And then, I don't know, become like a democracy, and now you're just stuck with like this large neighbor that's always beating the shit out of you in soccer matches. Even though, of course, that's what Germany does now anyway, even after they lost. Why did these people get over here? I don't like that. And that's pretty much it for. I'm just going to take a break today. And I'll come back tomorrow. And ideally, hopefully something's going to be happening. As we see, Zentrum is getting a little bit better. And have a good day, and don't cough on people.